Welcome everyone to today's Tech Talk. We're going to talk about budgets and how maybe we can deliver a little bit more detailed budget in the very beginning of a project versus doing the value engineering much later down the project pipeline. So again, title of this month's Tech Talk is Deliver Detailed Budgets Upfront for Better Projects. I'm David Settlemeyer. I'm a PE, registered engineer in the state of North Carolina. Been in the industry for going on well over 20 years now. Done everything from being director of a national developer to owning my own company to even teaching land desktop and civil 3D at the local community college. So I've been around, so definitely asked questions. We've seen and heard a lot between Gerald and myself. So let's just jump right in. So today the agenda is we're going to talk about the stages of a budget. Budgets are looked at in some general stages. It won't fit everybody's type of projects we have here, but it's a good generalization. We're going to talk about what is a SITEOPS budget and the components of that. The power SITEOPS, we're going to go in, look at it, play around a little bit, show how you can add more detail to the budget that you see come out of SITEOPS, and of course questions. As we stated earlier, we're very interactive. We want all the questions we can get. So I always start one of these tech talks with a quote. And this one is another good one that I like, and it's deciding what not to do is as important as deciding what to do. And when I had a company, this was one of the things that I had one of my big clients, David Cuthbertson, who owns True Homes, big builder here on the East Coast. He used to sort of preach this to us the whole time. And he said the reason that he really got involved with my company and had me on almost as a partner at some level was the decisions we helped him to make of not to doing was the ones that saved him money. Because what we delivered a lot of value engineering in the conceptual phase. Now, would have loved to have had SITEOPS because this is something that can be done in just a few minutes. Where back then, it was a number of us sitting around, starting with hand drawings, bubble diagrams, going through the whole process, and spending lots and lots of hours to come up with a decision of whether, or to at least help him decide whether or not to go or to go with a project. Now, that's been about 14 years ago since I left that, sold the company. So at this point, we're now looking at today's technology. And today's technology, again, the things, like I said, I dreamed of back then, can be done within just a few moments today. So we're going to be able to do this. Decide what not to do is as important as deciding what to do. So let's think about a budget. Now this is usually the part that most of our clients want to know, right? They want to see a pretty design. They want to make sure it works. It makes everybody happy. But at the end of the day, depending on the type of project, it's all about the budget. How much funding do we need to get? Can we stay on budget? How much is the project going to cost so they know how to sell their project so they can make money? So there's a lot of things that go into budgets, and budgets tend to grow as we go through a project. Now, I broke this into 4 basic stages. Again, in yours, there may be some combination, there may be some more stages, but in general, the first stage we're looking at is preliminary investment. This is concept. This is when somebody's going out, and when a lot of us do this, we do conceptual design, we throw a couple, this is the way we did it last time type numbers out there. We do a lot of guesstimating to help a client understand the budget side because they want a quick layout and a quick return. And the tools that we typically use, which are CAD, they're great tools, but they're not quick, right? I can't do a grading plan on a 500 lot subdivision in just a few hours. It takes days or weeks, again, depending on what level I need to. They usually a lot of times don't want to wait that long. Sometimes they don't even have that long to wait. So in the conceptual preliminary investment stage, they just want to get an idea of can the site work and what's a rough ballpark number. Now here's the problem. On their end, this is when they start committing. For example, they may start putting $100,000, $200,000 option on a piece of property that's non-refundable. So they want the best data that they can. Now, stage 2, this is what a lot of them would call a final investment. Some of them have like a PIM and a FIM for preliminary investment memo, final investment memo. This is the point where we've done a couple months worth of work. We've done the investigations, we've done the analysis, and we got a set of construction documents that let them know this is what we're looking at for the project. This is what it should cost. Now the thing is, this is the number they really want in stage 1. But again, the reality is we can't deliver that in stage 1. Not until you see what you're going to see today. So the preliminary budget, which is again the one they want to, the good hard one they want to take to the bank, it's the one that they're going to give to contractors to try to start value engineering. So that's stage 3, right? Contractors are going to get in and work with the engineer, the architect, or on their own and try to value engineer a project. Problem is, we're now on a good project, we're 3 months down the road. It could be years down the road we enter this stage, but we need that value engineering up front. And you're going to see, again, you're going to see that today, that we're going to take something that's months down the road and we're going to bring it back in the first couple of hours. And then there's stage 4. This is basically reality. This is what it is. It's a make or break. At this point, the client, they're stuck with it. The big thing is they need to be as close to this number of stage 4 as soon as they can in those other stages. And again, sometimes it's nature. It's just the way the business is. You're not going to know this till the very end anyhow. So again, the 4 stages, they're very broken down very bulkily here, but this is a good idea. And what we're going to really talk about is stage 1, because we're going to try to bring as much of 2, 3, and 4 back into stage 1, because the best time for them to make the best decision is before they put money down on a project, before they get too far into a project. Can a school fit? If it does, what is it going to cost? Wastewater treatment plant, is it better site option A, B, or C? Whatever the situation may be, this is the time to solve the problem, not 3, 4 months down the road when we've already made commitments. So the stages of a budget, I'm going to look at a quick little timeline. These are the 4 stages. Now again, this doesn't fit everybody's workflow. This is more of what we'd call if everything went good. It doesn't take into account zoning and preliminary plan approval and utility approval. They're sort of mixed in here. This is just the time that it takes to do these different components. So on average, again, depending on the size of the project, somewhere between 2 weeks and a month is what I hear from our users in the industry that it takes to get a preliminary investment to document level of information together. Just to be honest, a lot of engineers and architects don't even do that first step. They leave that up to the developer to come up with their own numbers. But for the ones that do it, get the design, get in there and really give them a decent number, it takes about a month. Then we go into final investment, which is really waiting the 2 months to do construction documents. And then a month of going back and forth between owner, contractor, suppliers, engineer, architect. So really what you're looking at is somewhere around 4 months to get a number that they should hopefully be able to feel safe with going to market. So let's look at the same timeline with SITEOPS. And again, this is what our users are telling us, that the biggest change, everything is pretty much the same between 2, 3, it's 2 months and 1 month. The big difference is the first month. The first month gets down to sometimes 2 to 3 days, maybe a week, but we're going to run through many iterations just like you would do without SITEOPS, but we're going to do them a lot faster. And where that really comes down is I'm going to knock time off to getting to construction. So you're asking, why is that so important? What's a month? Well, I'm going to give you an example. So again, anybody who's seen SITEOPS may have heard from the past, and for the ones who haven't, SITEOPS came out of the North Carolina region, just outside of between Greensboro and Charlotte, and thought up by some developers that did projects such as Lowe's Home Improvement. And Lowe's gives you a short window once they find a property to give them some multiple designs, give them some budgets, and get it to them. But the whole thing is, once you give them a budget, you're stuck. If it's $1 million is what you tell them it costs, and it's $1.2 million, they don't care. You're going to deliver that for $1 million. So they brought us in to help look at projects, work through a few things, help us design the software and validate it. And I went out on a lecture with David Shelton, who was head of real estate. And this was a little clip he said that I took and started using, because I thought what they loved was they were making it a little easier for them to look at sites, for their engineers to help them. SITEOPS was saving them over $15,000 an acre in construction. I thought that was the cool part. I was like, wow, yeah, we're saving you money. And he goes, you weren't saving me money. He goes, you were making me money, because they took that initial conceptual phase and cut it down from a month or 2 months, and we cut it down to a couple days. They were able to get stores open. In their case, they were figuring on about 10 days early. And that year, they did 140 stores. That's a lot of extra money that they would have never made. And this is the kind of thing you can sell as your capabilities to your clients. I can help you get something done early. And that's the power that you're going to be able to get. But you got to get that good enough budget. They got to feel confident enough to pull that trigger at that higher, that preliminary stage earlier as well. And you're going to get there because you're going to give them better information. So I said I was going to talk about the SITEOPS budget. So before we get into SITEOPS and really start getting into meat of what you can and can't do, we're going to look at the SITEOPS budget. And there's basically two major sections. Now, when you see it, there's going to be 4 tabs and all kind of information, but there's 2 major areas that most people worry about. One is the SITEOPS budget. This is the automated section. This is where, for example, cut and fill and retaining walls and asphalt, curb gutter, all this budgeting is going to be done for you. It's part of the design you're creating. And then there is the user budget. And we categorize that as miscellaneous because that can be anything you're thinking of. If you see, for example, I have erosion control, landscaping, utilities. These are things that SITEOPS will not do, but we give you the capability to add them in there. And if something changes, for example, if I draw a water line and I have to change it, it automatically updates the budget for me. And that's what we really want, right? Because as we're going through the options, I don't want to have to go back and constantly worry about, is the budget changing? As I change it, because of a design request or whatever it might be, the budget's going to change for me automatically. Again, making life a lot simpler, letting me spend more time worrying about engineering, less time worrying about drafting. So a lot of times we get, how does SITEOPS work? How is it able to do this? Because I have CAD. First off, it's not CAD. We're drawing things. We keep it similar so it's not so hard to learn. But the reality is what we're working with is parametrics and optimization. So a lot of people go, well, what do you mean by parametrics? Well, parametrics is really nothing more than the ability to take areas and objects and assign properties, such as a parking lot, 9 by 18 parking spaces, 24-foot drive aisles. Bring in a building, it has requirements. We don't want to park in a building. But the beauty is once you can start, because we're working in a model, once you can start adding those pieces together, basically forming a reality model, they know how to react. And as you see on the screen in front of you, that quick, it's not edited, it's not sped up. That's how fast you can come in and draw a simple little site. So parametrics are going to help you really, again, use your talent, use your expertise to look at multiple scenarios. And then we go into optimization. So optimization is really one of the really big things in SITEOPS that it can do very well. Is, for example, we're looking at a grading plan. I'm going to have it go through grading analysis. The numbers are moving because it's going through thousands of grading plans, looking for the best cost of construction that meets all my parameters. Now, again, that's what the client wants, right? The client wants the best design for the best cost. And that's what we're going to deliver. But we're also taking advantage, as it's doing this, to come up with the best cost. It also has to come up with a budget. So in the background, for every time you saw that number moving in the lower right-hand corner of the total budget, it was creating a full budget. Now again, if we had enough time and effort that a client would give us, could us as designers get the same answer? Of course. It's a computer. It does what we do faster. That's all we've created SITEOPS to do. We haven't created to come up with any fancy new way of doing things. We just created to take what we do, mimic it, and mimic it faster. So again, if they gave you enough time and money, you would definitely come up with pretty much the same answer. Reality is they're not going to wait 6 months, a year to get that answer. They need it as soon as possible. So again, parametrics, optimization, that's the power that's driving SITEOPS. It's going to make life easier for you. And a lot of times people have sort of grouped these two together, and you'll hear the term optioneering. So I've mentioned about options and looking at different scenarios a number of times so far, and that's exactly what SITEOPS does. It looks at, or allows you to look at, different scenarios, different opportunities to come up with the best solution. All right, I've talked long enough, done the PowerPoints. Let's jump in and let's actually show some SITEOPS and show what makes this a little different. So I'm just going to go out and start SITEOPS. It is a web-based tool, so it's a little different than most software. You don't have a lot of IT issues or different things like that. It automatically updates. Again, makes life a lot simpler. Lets you worry more about, again, designing, less about taking care of your software. So I'm going to open up a project. Open up one that's already drawn. If you've watched the last couple Tech Talks, you've seen this project before, so I figured I would just build on top of this project. This is an office building out inside of Denver, Colorado. We got a nice little office building. We got some Luminar T models in there. Now this is one that's already had a lot of budget items added. And I'm going to show you how we added them because it's really simple. So let's go over to the layer. Let me turn off the contours. And actually, I'm going to tell you right now, just for now, I'm going to get rid of these paths, which is going to do nothing more than remove the cars from the parking lot. We don't need those right now. So if I come up in here and I hit the grading button, just as we saw just a few moments ago, in that lower right-hand corner, we're doing a grading. Now, we're only performing part of the budget at this point. There was other parts of the budget that I needed to create, and that was the miscellaneous. So I'm going to walk through a few steps that you can do to come in and create those items for the budget. So if we go under, real quick, I'm just going to show you the cost report as we have it setting. We're going to see things such as cut, fill, import, export. If we had rock in there, how do we deal with unsuitable? How are we going to deal with all kind of different things? Now, one thing I'll show you, I do a little different. Erosion control, I leave it 0, and I'm going to talk to you why in just a minute. Because erosion control, again, is against computer. It doesn't always understand how we're going to do things just a little bit different than it's thinking. So we can look at seating, asphalt, curb, gutter, sidewalk, stormwater. We'll talk about that in just a few moments. So again, a nice budget that for the ones who are asking, because I know we're going to get this question, so I'm going to go ahead and head this off at the pass real quick. We do have a default property area. What this allows you to control everything from layout to grading to stormwater to unit cost. And you can be an imperial or metric, and you can also save these as templates. And you can have as many of these as you want. So you can just come in if you want to change. And we get a lot of people that say, you know what, I don't really want to deliver a client an exact budget because they're going to try to hold me to it, even though we're only a week into the project. And I understand that. So a lot of the users will say, here's 3 designs, and here's the cheapest, the next to cheapest, and the furthest one. Which one do you like? You know, it may be a, you know, I know a few of them will say that budgets are, you know, just preliminary, not final till construction documents, but it gives them some idea of how to start working on the project. So again, a lot of different ways you can use the budget on your end to feel satisfied that you're delivering the client exactly what they're looking for. So when you come into SITEOPS, again, everything in here has the ability to have properties and grading and layout and all these different pieces to it. But there's also the ability to come in and draw things. For example, I talked just a second ago that I normally do not show in that automated part an erosion control number. The reason why. If you take the line that I've highlighted, this is what I'm calling, I'm going to show you how I create it in just a second. That is what I call my denuded area. Because I may go in and grab a little bit more than SITEOPS is thinking about. For example, SITEOPS does not design detention ponds or sediment basins, or again, everybody has different names for them. I would need to make sure I loop this area in. Because if you look at the blue line, this is actually the denuded limits based exactly on how the grading happens. Well, what if exactly I want to be a little bigger? Maybe I just want a little, like, couple feet buffer so I can run some silt fence along the edge and not have to worry about it as we grade up to it. Again, SITEOPS won't add that. Those are those little things that, again, we as designers need to add to the system so that it gets a better answer. So in this case, I went over and I created an area. Let's just do this. I'm going to go back and do it completely backwards. Excuse me. So if we have a area, and I would have went under, just for the ones who wonder how I drew, I went under path, drew a little path just like this, and we can now assign something to it. So let's delete that one. Go back and pick the other one. And I want to add a cost. Inside SITEOPS, you can add cost to everything. And it can be whatever your heart's desire. In this case, I want to add a cost to that area. And I told it, I've already set it up, it remembers it. It's under erosion. It's called denuded. Where did I have it at? I will just rewrite it again. Denuded limits. There we go. And this is per, now here's the neat thing. Anything you pick on knows the ways it can be measured automatically. So in this case, I want to do it per acre. And let's just say I want to add a generic number of $2,500 an acre. And when I hit enter, if you look down at the lower side, we're looking at about $22,685. But what if you come back and somebody says, oh, no, it's $2,750? I can just simply change the number and do it. Or if I had to go for some, let's say for some reason I had to clear out this upper area for material laydown. Again, there's all kind of reasons we change the limits of our disturbance. If I want to come out and now change that, let's look at that line. There on the right, we went to 9.46 to 9.07. It went to $26,009. I didn't have to do nothing but make a change on the project, and it happened automatically. Same as with trees. Little things that add up to the budget. We got trees on here. They're $350 a piece. I can place them manually. I can use an array and a path and do them that way. I can come in and we can look at lights. You know, a lot of these are blocks that are supplied with SITEOPS. All you got to do is just tell it how do you want to collect it into the system. And this is really good because this allows me now to go in and start adding more and more and more data to this design. Again, making sure that we get the proper results. Now, one thing I want to bring up is if we look at this, let's go in, and there's also something about budgeting and SITEOPS that is a lot different as well. We're going to budget. We're going to come in and we're going to look in that lower right-hand corner. It's just over $1 million to build this site. And the big power of SITEOPS' budgeting is the ability to change. So if I look at this roadway, let's turn off some layers just to make it a little easier. There we go. I want to look at this roadway, and the client says, love it, but I'm selling this building to someone who wants, instead of up to 7% for a drive, you look in the lower right-hand corner, we can't go over 3%. That's just their requirement. We're going to say, okay, let's do that. So quickly, I made the change. I'm going to regrade. So now I'm rebudgeting, I'm regrading, I'm redoing everything all over again. It's exactly what the client wanted. That's the power side. I just delivered something that'd take me at least a couple hours, maybe a couple days, depending on my skill set with my CAD tool. To deliver this, I did it in just a few moments, but I got a problem. So this is the other really neat thing is, again, if I'm coming in and creating something, let's go in and look at the problem layer. It's going to identify I have a problem. It's going to identify where it is. Now, it's up to me to solve it. It's not an engineer. It's a software. In this case, it's because I flattened that slope. It now means I have an issue. And in the back, we had a wetland area. And in this wetlands, I couldn't disturb anything. So let's just tell the system along that wetland, wherever you need it, you can put a wall. Now, again, great thing. It's going to start building that wall, and it's going to put it in the budget. If you look over on the right, we now got about it's going around $13,000, $14,000 in wall. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit, and you see that tan? There's the wall. It's only going to put in the wall that it needs. It's not going to go in and just say, hey, you got to have, you said wall here, have a wall. It's going to try to minimize it because that's exactly what the client wants. But guess what? I just budgeted. And you can't do that in any other software. You can go in and draw a wall, yeah. 30, 40 minutes later, you can have it into the budget, but it's a lot of effort because the thing is what the client says, no walls. I don't want that additional cost. I'll go back and tell them we're going to look at a different slope on the driveway, or maybe just remove the driveway and try something completely different. I now have the ability to run those options very quickly to give the client options to make better decisions. That's what it's all about, making a better decision. So if we go in and we look at this. Now, I talked in a minute ago on one of the slides, I said there was parametrics and there was optimization. Now, when I grade, I'll hit it just so you can watch it. I'm going to turn this on, turn on the triangles, and let you look at the red is cut, blue is fill. And what's happening is SITEOPS is doing a quick grading plan to look for any issues like the grading issue we had. And it's saying, all right, I'm going to take each surface, each little triangle, and I'm going to move it around and manipulate it, but I'm only going to do it so many times. I'm just looking for potential errors. That's, again, part of the parametrics. That's a little bit of the optimization. It's not the full package. Okay, there's another package that we can go out and do as well, and that's going to involve looking at utility. So, for example, I just clicked the utility button. It quickly designed one based on that grading plan using the rational method. Again, we keep it conservative just because we are a conceptual software, but you're going to look at it and be like, wow, that's a lot of inlets and a lot of pipes for nothing. This is where the secondary optimization is going to come in, and it's a very simple thing to do. I want SITEOPS to now go back and take that grading. When it graded a minute ago, it had no stormwater piping, remember? We hadn't even hit the button yet. I want SITEOPS to go out and go, all right, well, how can I sheet flow this parking lot a lot better to come up with a different solution? It can do that. And the beauty is it's effortless on your end. Just a couple clicks of a mouse. You're going to come over to project and you're going to say submit. And then you're going to tell it whether you're basically with or without grading. You're going to submit it. So I submitted these earlier just to see what the time rate was going. It took about 4 minutes for this to go through the system. 4 minutes. And what it's going to do millions of grading plans. And for each grading plan, it's going to do around 10,000 piping scenarios. Looking for, again, the best cost of construction that meets my constraints. And what happens, you get an email back that says, hey, it's done. I can go back at this point, go over to solutions, and you can see where I ran them this morning. I ran basically the first one, which is the way I first took it, the client's option where it would fail, and the third option, which is with walls. So one thing I've had people ask is, well, man, how do I know the number 2 failed? Well, it failed earlier, right? Also, I tell people if you see an odd budget, there might be a reason why. You need to go check it. So if I open this back up, I can just say open. It's going to open up my new solution. We'll say, nah, we don't want to save that last one. We're going to open this one. And first off, I don't see any pipes. I see the grading error in the upper right-hand corner. It's failed. There's an error. So I need to fix this. If SITEOPS can't fix it, it's not going to go through the whole. In this case, it says I can't pipe because I don't have a grading plan to work with. So there's even a safety catch in there to make sure, again, you're not getting in trouble by trying to move too fast and go through different options. Let's go back to solution. Let's open that one with walls, that very last one. So you can see it moved drainage around. Is it probably the very final draining plan? Because you're going to use SES, modified, other different ways you can do storm drainage that are a lot more aggressive? No. And you can change. I think I have mine going into I think an acre into one basin, so I probably needed to change that to a little, maybe a half acre or a quarter. Again, I can change all that. I can change the rainfall intensity and runoff coefficients and all that for my project by just a click of a couple buttons. But I now have a design that works. And what if I want to see the budget for this? Now that budget we see inside SITEOPS, I always call this the designer's budget. And there's a reason. Right now, I don't see a print or an export because this is a budget, again, for me. I want to understand the design I'm getting ready to turn out. As part of optimization, we'll go back over here and look, and we'll just say export. You can export a number of different ways straight from here. The drawing files to go do construction documents, PDF, LAN XMLs, what was submitted to SITEOPS, what came back in a SITEOPS XML format. But the big one we're talking about today is the Excel budget. And I've already done this just to save us a few moments. So if I came in and said, all right, let's export that number 3 budget. Let me go over here to my other screen, just bring it up for you. We'll let Excel open up. Here's the budget. And we show you in training, for example, how you're able to actually add your own title block. You can change a few things. But this is a budget that has clearing. I always love saying this. Think about the first couple minutes of a project. I already have started looking at clearing and knowing, for example, I'm not exporting what's that, 4,500 cubic yards. We're going to figure out how to berm it, bury it. For $45,000, it's not leaving that site. Your cut, your fill, all this information is now right there in my hands. We only needed 642 square feet of wall for $16,000. Client's probably not going to care. But if they never saw it, they would never know it, right? $16,000 is not that big a deal in the long run on a project to land a client, especially for a project like that. They're going to do it. On-site improvements, asphalt, curb, gutter, sidewalks, and it can be broken down to different pavement types, different types of sidewalk, different types of curb. Storm drainage, it's in here. It's got your flared-in sections, your pipes, your oversized pipes, your manholes, all that information you need for a storm drainage design. And then if you look at the bottom, it says miscellaneous. Now, it doesn't show the whole miscellaneous tab. You actually go there and hit that tab, and now it shows anything that I've added there. And the beauty is if I keep adding to this, it'll pop over to the other one as well. But these are all things that I just quickly added in and say, hey, if I'm doing a project, I'm going to look at my meters. I'm going to look at tap fees. Do I got a bore and jack to get under the main road? Because they're probably not going to let me open cut that little 4-lane roadway. Again, I can add these little things that the client is appreciative to know because he doesn't have to worry about it. You're going to help him get to that point. And again, if I was doing this for real, there'd probably be 100 items on here because that'd be every little item. And again, the beauty is as I change, those items will change for me automatically. So you can't get much better than that, right? How many times we change a project? 10, 20, 30 times. And each time we got to figure out how the budget's been affected for that change. SITEOPS quickly and easily did that for you. Again, just to give you an idea, I'll just go in. Let's open up that second budget where it failed. And if I go all the way down to stormwater, again, no stormwater piping. So it's not going to go in and give you something that physically can't be built. Again, another great part of SITEOPS. So let's go in. Let's roll back out.
I got a question if you
yes.
got a second.
Please.
We got a question from. All right, we got a question here. Can you change the link height in the same way along the property boundary?
Yes.
As you did along the edge of that area.
You can actually go to properties. Oh, let me make sure I did. Yeah, the link height on the property boundary. Sorry about that. Since I'm in a solution, let's do this just so I can get out. When you're in a solution, just for anybody who's wondering why everything's sort of grayed out, it knows you're in a solution that you shouldn't be changing it because it's a solution, right? It was optimized. So let's go back into the actual drawing itself. And let me go in and just turn off a couple of these layers, go back to that actual boundary. And if you now go to side, it has to be done by the sides, not the area. Right there is a link height. So I can turn it off and on. I could actually do it per area. So I could come over to just, or per line, I can just come in and say, I want to do this boundary segment right there. And I can turn it off and on for that segment. So yes, by all means, you can go in and change it. And again, SITEOPS is really good about this, being able to go in and tweak little areas. Imagine a truck dock. I can actually link it on the side of a building, tell it it's a negative 4 feet. And that wall, I would tell it, because it's a truck dock, do not use in my budget, because that would be part of the building, not part of it. So yes, you can use those links, and I encourage people, use them to your advantage, because they can really make you get a lot more detailed in that conceptual phase really easy. So one thing I always want to talk about and make sure people get is the exports. You can export SITEOPS anywhere you want, because it's always about what do you do downstream. So I can actually go out and go quickly to Google Earth. A lot of people love this. Add a budget with a little Google Earth link. They love that. LumenRT, this is a big one that a lot of people like to see. You can come in and create a 3D model. Everything in here was done inside SITEOPS. All I did was hit the export to LumenRT. Fabulous software. If you haven't seen it, look into it, because it allows pretty much any engineer or architect to come out and now be really good at graphics and be a master of this kind of stuff, control it. Where's the sun? How's it look? How much clouds do we have? Is it rainy? Is it not? I can come in and just do some really quick playing around. You see the trees moving, birds moving, make movies and all kind of VR models and anything you'd want to do to help show a client the intent of your design along with that budget. Imagine clients, again, they see black and white line drawings, but adding this and a budget together. Again, we'll have the black and white somewhere. It's not as sexy. But adding that out there, that's the wow the client's looking for. This is also what they can use to sell. So anybody who's looking at SITEOPS, especially because we're creating that model, as you can see, I just went in and had SITEOPS place all that in there and pushed it over. And again, for example, the trees inside the parking lot, they have a cost. So as I change the parking lot, it updates the cost and it updates my 3D model. Can't get much better than that. SITEOPS is really a reality modeling tool that allows you to put information in and then distribute it to other software as it needs to be. Again, and everything ultimately, which is SITEOPS been around, is ultimately about the budget, because that's what everybody needs to know. So let's get out of SITEOPS. We've played around with this just a little bit enough. So let's just come in and finish up here. So better detail for better decisions. I think hopefully we showed today that you're able to look at more design options, do it in less time with less effort. That's the biggest key. We're out to make money ourselves, not just our clients. We want to shorten their time to market, because if we can shorten time to market for our clients, they make more money. And if they make more money, who are they going to come back to? They notice these things. Believe me, when I worked for a national developer, and I was over engineering, delivery times were huge. And if you wanted to stay working with us, you had to meet some realistic time, because if I've only got a week or two to make a decision and have to lay down $250,000, which was fairly common, and I don't get it back if we make a bad decision, you delivering me the best result possible was at the utmost importance. And if you didn't, we didn't see you for the next project. And that's just the industry, right? We got to deliver good solutions, and we got to deliver them quickly, especially in that first beginning part of a project. And the big thing is, this is something we hear from a lot of our users. SITEOPS users have been around for a number of years now, and there's a lot of them, and they exceed client expectations. They love going in and hitting that grading button, watching the number count down, and look at the client and goes, I just saved you money. That wows their clients. Their clients lose their mind. And it's amazing to me how much SITEOPS we sell just because a client goes to another engineer and said, hey, I use 2 or 3 engineers. Most of them do. I love this other one. He just can't do all my work for me. But guess what? If you want to keep doing work for me, you got to check out this technology, because it's saving me a lot of money on these other projects. So again, SITEOPS is here. It's going to help you detail budgets. It's going to help you detail them as you change. And again, make life a lot simpler for you. So let's head into questions. Before we do that, I want to bring up one thing. A lot of times we hear this just looks too easy. David, you've been doing this for 10 years. You've been helping with software. You know what the software is about. And I'm like, well, yeah, I do. I'm not going to lie to that. But I also tell everybody it is as simple as it looks. The hardest part of using SITEOPS is knowing what you want on the screen. So we tell everybody, go out and try it. So if you're a Bentley user already, you can go into fulfillment. You can grab SITEOPS. There's a free trial right there for you. Already has some projects set up. You can go in and play around. If you're not, go to bentley.com. There's a product page. Go to SITEOPS. Over here, you'll see it in the lower right-hand corner. There's a little free trial. Get started. Worst case scenario, David at SITEOPS.com. Send me an email and I'll send you a link. But go out and try it yourself, because you'll be surprised. You're sitting there going, it can't be that easy. It is. And hearing it can't be that easy, we hear that a lot. And again, we prove all the time that this software is really cool, and it makes life a lot simpler for you. So let's get to the questions and go from there.
All right, David. Got a question here. How does delivering better budgets help make better project workflows?
When you can deliver a better product up front, the one thing that's going to help with the workflow, because revisions, that's the nasty word for most of us designers, right? Revisions. We hate revisions. If I have the ability to look at all the different bits and pieces and then hopefully go through most of the revisions the client would think of or the client's client would think of, I'm going to do a lot of that work up front, and it's going to fit my workflow better, because once I get into construction documents, I'm not going back and forth. A lot of us get killed on that back and forth, and a lot of times those revision requests are based on economics, not on design issues or in the field. You all of a sudden get a client that just has a burr in their head, and they go, you know what, I think if we do this, it'll cost me less money. But when you already have looked at it for them, a lot of you know, I'll just open up one and say, hey, we've already went down that path. You didn't like it then, I don't know why you'd like it now, but you know, here it is, it's 10% more, and you're going to make your life a lot simpler. It's going to keep that workflow in one straight line. The more I can go from concept to preliminary to final to construction, the easier my life is. It gets hard when I go from concept to preliminary to construction back to part of concept again, because I got to rechange something and go. That circle that we get stuck in is what drives us crazy, what kills our budgets. So this is going to help stop a lot of that.
All right, got another question here for you. I think you kind of answered this earlier, but can the unit cost be updated for the location of the project?
Yeah, there's that default property area. You would update it for whatever information you got. I mean, I tell a lot of people, especially like in Charlotte, if I was back out in the open industry, I would just go out there and actually get some contractor friends, say, hey, what's my numbers for Charlotte for these different items, little spreadsheets you can get out of SITEOPS, fill it out, and then all of a sudden I can just save that in SITEOPS as Charlotte unit cost, or Raleigh, or again, where the areas that I would work in around here, Lancaster, South Carolina, or I've done projects helping Walmart and some of these where I have numbers for Mexico and Brazil, and you can change those, and you can change them as much as you want and save as many templates as you want. Again, that when you start up, you just click, I'm in Mexico City, and I'm ready to rock.
Go ahead and then we have another question here on how long does it take to become a good user of SITEOPS?
It's like any software. It takes a couple projects. I'm not going to lie. You're not going to just come out, take the 3 days of training. You're going to know the software, but it's knowing how to work. And because SITEOPS is changing your workflow a little bit. And as we know, anytime you change the workflow, it takes a little getting used to. So a couple projects, and you'll be zooming around doing everything you need. This is not a college course. Again, I taught Land, Desktop, and Civil 3D for 7 years at night over at Central Piedmont right here in Charlotte, and it's a college course. And at the end of the semester, they still didn't know enough to go out and be completely productive. With SITEOPS, you're going to be productive after the couple days of training. And then after a couple projects, you'll be an expert, and you'll be moving right along.
All right, David, that's all the questions we have for now.